What's up, everybody, and welcome to The Horror Within Me, a podcast dedicated to the world of horror. I am your host, Eric, and each week I'm going to rate and review a new movie or TV show that falls within the horror genre. Now, this is a show for horror fans, hosted by a horror fan who's just here to share my opinions and experiences with my fellow horror friends in hopes that you may gain something new to watch or not watch, and really just talk about all things related to this beautifully dark and spooky world that we call horror. So if this sounds like a show for you, stick around, we're going to have a lot of fun. So let's get started. Hey everybody, and welcome back to a brand new Spooky Sunday episode of The Horror Within Me. I am your host, Eric, and this is a podcast where we do horror reviews. This week's episode, we are going to be doing something that actually doesn't fall under the horror genre category if you look at it on paper, which we're going to do today. But it's something that's very special to me, and I wanted to do it for this show because this is a show about me. So anyway, this week's episode is about the brand new 2023 television show Twisted Metal, based on the Sony PlayStation games of the 90s and early 2000s. If you follow me on social media, you already know how I feel about the show, but I wanted to make a full episode about it because I was curious not only to dive deeper into my thoughts on it, but also read some of the reviews that other people have written about it already. Falls in line with new content, all that fun shit, and I just want to really talk about my passion and love for this video game franchise. So if nobody out there knows what Twisted Metal is, you don't need to know the game to watch the show, but it definitely, fans of the show, I feel, would appreciate it. So Twisted Metal is something I go way back. For those of you who have been listening for a while, already know that I really, really, really love video games and mostly survival horror. But one of the things that I never really talk about much is Twisted Metal and how much of a staple in my memory those games are for me. I mean, I be very more specifically Twisted Metal 2 and then Twisted Metal Black. Twisted Metal 2 was on the first PlayStation, Twisted Metal Black was on PlayStation 2. Um, I would play that game, Twisted Metal 2, over and over and over again. My favorite driver or car was Spectre. I really liked Spectre because of the homing missile. It would follow you around, and I loved it. I also only use God mode when I play Twisted Metal because I would never be able to play the game. I cheated. Yes, I was a Game Shark kid. If you know, you know. But Twisted Metal, I just remember me and the neighborhood kids and my friends would play for hours and hours and hours, and it just is something that was just something that I was very much to look back on things like GoldenEye and the Resident Evil or Parasite Eve, the games that really shaped me growing up, and it holds a real big sense of nostalgia for me. So when I heard they were making the Twisted Metal TV series, obviously I was interested immediately. I'm doing a lot of ums today. I apologize. My brain is a little. I've been working the last 2 days in a row, both jobs, so I'm a little fried. But I'm so excited to do the episode. So please bear with me. But Twisted Metal, I after watching the show, I was like talking to my husband about it and trying to explain things to him because he watched the show and liked it but has no idea what the games are. And so like I went to look on the PlayStation store because I have a PS5 because I've always been a PS guy. Like that's always been like my thing that I like more. I've had an Xbox and a 360, but I've always leaned more towards like PlayStation. So anyway, I went to the PlayStation store just for the hell of it, and I did not know this, but they sell the games to download still. Like they have Twisted Metal 2, 3, Black. Like I was immediately like, are you kidding me? They have the game still? I instantly bought Twisted Metal 2 and Twisted Metal Black for $9.99 each. And the God mode code still works for them. But I sat there at 10:30 at night and beat Twisted Metal 2 beginning to end with Spectre and took me right back to being 10 years old, and it was still the best. And then I started Twisted Metal Black, but then I was like tired and had work the next day, so I was like, I'll do this another time. And I really think I'm going to stream it soon, because it's I can't get enough of it. I'm so thrilled that I'm able to play them still. And I've heard they're making a new one. I didn't do enough research because this is more about the television show, but I really want to start this episode off with just my passion and my respect for the franchise. And now we're going to get into the into why. Now you know why I've made this episode about the show, and I feel like it still has a rightful place within the horror universe, especially with the character Sweet Tooth and the Carnage and the way that the games are set up. It's not considered horror, but I feel like it could still fall within that somehow. Anyway, we're gonna get into the next part, which is the talking about the show. But what we're doing at the beginning of every show is we're going to do what is called a terrifying trivia question, where we ask a question and answer it at the end of the episode. So it is time for this week's terrifying trivia question. This week's terrifying trivia question I came up with is, what is the name of the asylum Sweet Tooth was in the television show? Again, the question is, what is the name of the asylum Sweet Tooth was in the television show? Stick around to the end of the episode to find out. So Twisted Metal is brand new, like not even, maybe it's a week old at this point. So this is probably one of the fastest and freshest reviews I've done on a piece of content since starting this show. The synopsis on IMDb is this: follows a motor-mouthed outsider offered a chance at a better life, but only if he can successfully deliver a mysterious package across a post-apocalyptic wasteland. So a little bit different than what the games set up. The games, it's more of a um tournament to take out all the other cars, like all the other contestants, and if you win the Twisted Metal tournament, there's a man named Calypso who can grant your wildest dream come true. You get one wish granted, no questions asked. You get whatever it is that you want. And most people that are in the tournament are crazy, not all their people. You're not just your average Joes driving around just trying to win to get their mortgage paid off. Like, these people are wild. It's post apocalyptic. You can imagine that at this point, society has completely crumbled. But so the synopsis for the show takes a little bit of a different turn, and they flesh out more of a purpose to span this series out. They do he has to deliver a package across the wasteland. I was like, okay, a little different, but I get it. You gotta be able to take what's on a video game and put it onto a television or into a movie, which is not always done as successful as you would hope, especially with something with characters like that are great, but also very surface level. That's not actually like a big point of it. Anyway, so starring in Twisted Metal, we have Anthony Mackie as John Doe, Stephanie Beatriz as Quiet, Taj Vaughns as Mike, Mike Mitchell as Stu, Chell Ramos as Jamie Roberts, Michael Corallo as Carl, Jamie Newman as Watts, Joe Sinona as Sweet Tooth, who is then voiced by Will Arnett, Thomas Hayden Church as Agent Stone, and Nev Campbell as Raven. And Nev Campbell. I remember she was supposed to be at Monster Mania, the first one I think I was supposed to go to last August, and she actually had to back out due to filming this show. I was so disappointed that I didn't get to meet her, but I'm also so happy that she got to do this show. Twisted Metal was released on July 27th, 2023. It was developed by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. And then we have a runtime, or AKA episode length, of 23 to 32 minutes in length, and there's 10 episodes. The genre on IMDb is action, adventure, comedy, fantasy, sci-fi. No horror, but again, it's still, I feel like, worthy of an episode on this show because I fucking said so. The tagline is, "It's time to have some fun in the apocalypse." Not the best tagline, in my opinion. I've thought they would have come up with something better, but it is what it is. It is an IMDb rating so far of a 7.5 out of 10, Rotten Tomato rating of a tomato meter of 68%, an audience score of 94%. And guys, this is all within like a week of it being released. That's what I just want to keep prefacing, that this is all very fresh. So it was definitely like taking my template for episodes, which are usually based on movies, and trying to figure out how to tweak it into the show for a television show, but also a television show that's been out very fresh within a week. So like you can imagine, like obviously there are some ratings that are out there, but they're not as easily able to filter out certain ones. So hopefully you guys like the ones I picked. I think they were pretty good. I think they're pretty diverse and tell two sides of everything. So with that little setup, it's time to jump into the top 3 best reviews on IMDb and worst reviews for Twisted Metal. So starting off with the top 3 best reviews, we're going to have the first one that is titled Awesome Show. Here's the review. Absolutely love it. Everything is just so well done. From the plot to the cast to the graphics, I can't emphasize how great it is a show. It's got to be my best show so far. Definitely will recommend this to all. It caters to a wide range of audience. I'm sure many will like it too. They've definitely did a fantastic job in this series. This is hyping me up for the next season too. I strongly encourage all to watch it and share your thoughts too. In my opinion, they definitely did a good job at capturing the zaniness and frantic energy of the video games. Shall not spoil any bit, keeping the excitement and anticipation high for all. Enjoy. This is rated a 10 out of 10. It was written in July, obviously, because we're when the show came out. But it's a good review, but it's a hard review to read. But it's like pieced, and it felt like they were hard to find like the words, but they really liked it. But I picked it because I liked the one sentence in it that says, "Good job at capturing the zaniness and frantic energy of the video games." I want to say, exactly. Like I love the word zaniness and frantic energy. Perfectly can describe the Twisted Metal games. Like it is fucking chaos. You're driving, you're trying to drive, you're trying to shoot, people are shooting at you, shit's going crazy. There's like it is very zany and frantic. So that's why I really liked that review. But there's not too much I can really pick apart other than like I felt very pieced and they were having trouble finding a thought to really land on. Moving on to the next one, simply titled Welcome to Twisted Metal. It says, written in July. As a long time fan of the series, as well as a 90s kid, I was very excited when I heard about the show. However, I did have my doubts. 10 short, easy to watch episodes flow effortlessly, punctuated by dark comedy loyal to the game. The small details brought into reality, whether it's the character names, vehicles, even the sound of Sweet Tooth's special weapon, or the tail colors of different rockets, the attention to detail did justice to the game. The story is easy to follow, and you'll love the characters. You won't get bored and feel like you have to drag yourself through a period piece or political statement show. This show is fun, pure and simple. Cars, guns, dark comedy. What more do you want? And now the tournament can begin. I picked this because it's like they started off as a long time fan of the series, as well as a 90s kid. I was very excited to hear about the show, even though they had their doubts. 100%. I 100% related to this as a 90s kid, as a long time fan as well. I also had my doubts because I've said it before, the Resident Evil show was not, it started strong, the CGIs were there, we did an episode on it, but then it just went straight to fucking hell. They messed it up and it got canceled. The Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City tried to do something that was a really great idea on paper, which was create a movie that was going on with Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 at the same time with the characters, but then again, did something just terrible with it, and it just wasn't the best. So with this show, I can agree with this reviewer. I wasn't sure, but I really love the attention to detail. Like I said, I love the laughing clown sounds when Sweet Tooth is like releasing his special move, the different, I didn't even notice the different color missiles. I don't even know how I missed the different color missiles, but I think the small details for fans was amazing and not overly thrown in your face. So if you're a fan, you can really enjoy the show. But if you don't know anything about the games, you can also really enjoy the show as Ryan did. So really, really spot on, great review, I think. Moving on to the next and final best review for Twisted Metal. It's titled I Doubt It, But They Delivered. Twisted Metal was my favorite game growing up, and I was really scared this show wouldn't be great. But I'm loving Twisted Metal the show. I didn't know if they could pull off the vibe, but they totally nailed it. It's dark and brutal and gritty, but also super campy and funny. Really cool Easter eggs in each episode. Sweet Tooth is a machine. I don't think he's ever been portrayed better. I especially doubted that the story was going to be interesting, but you can see where it's heading and it totally works. They do a great job of introducing all the characters and making you excited to see them come back again in future episodes. Bring on season 2. Again, completely agree with this person's review. As another person who is a second review as a fan of the games, because that is important as well. Like this obviously is not this show was created for fans of the franchise. The creators did it because they're probably fans of the franchise. They didn't just pick it out of thin air. So it shows, and I agree with them that we were nervous about it, and the Easter eggs are great. It was dark and gritty, and I completely think that it all did work. And finding the certain characters, like the main Anthony Mackie's character of John Doe, his car is roadkill in Twisted Metal Black, because like even though like Spectre and Roadkill and Shadow all have like appearances in almost all the games, their drivers don't always necessarily mean that they're the same drivers. Like in the show, Agent Stone and then Jamie and Carl, I believe, they are all different. Outlaw is the name of the car in the games. Like they're different outlaws in the different series. So I thought that was really cool, and I loved fucking Shadow was the purple hearse that was in Twisted Metal, and I'm just obviously loving the fucking hearse thing. But they named the character. We don't actually know her name, but in the show they call her Quiet. But that's the car that they were driving in, and I thought that was just amazing. And even if there weren't actual like cars that were shown, like Mr. Slam from Twisted Metal 2 is like a digger truck that digs construction sites. I don't fucking know the names of things. You don't actually see Mr. Slam, but there's an episode where there's a character who goes by Mr. Slam. Fucking loved it. And just for a reference, my one nephew, who's in his 20s now, when he first started playing video games, it was around PlayStation. He was like 3 or 4. Always just called it the digger truck because he knew that it digs into the ground to pull up the dirt and stuff. So he loved Mr. Slam. In the game, he would grab you with the front of the truck and like pound you up and down and throw you across the fucking stage. Amazing. But those are the top 3 best reviews for Twisted Metal on IMDb. Let's see what people that were not fans of the show had to say with the top 3 worst reviews of Twisted Metal on IMDb. The first one is titled Not for Fans. And it's just funny that the first one is titled Not for Fans because the last 2 reviews we read that people loved were longtime fans of the game. So this is an interesting twist. Let's see how it goes. If you like the video game franchise, I can't imagine you would like this. Want vehicle combat? Well, too bad. The franchise was built on vehicle combat and this has very little. In fact, only a few minutes worth in 5 hours. Most combat is on foot and poorly executed. Very few characters from the franchise appear, and when they do, they're wrong. Sweet Tooth was okay, but ruined with wretched dialogue, very bad writing and acting, poor casting. Mackie has the comedic timing of a gnat fart. Feels like a Nickelodeon show written by 12-year-olds. There's over the top acting, and then there's too over the top acting. Barbie has good over the top acting. This does not. Hope it gets canceled. So this is exactly what I mean by stark differences because, like, as a fan of the game and as the other people that are fans of the game, I completely 100% disagree with this person's review. Completely just disagree. I thought that obviously the entire show cannot just be a bunch of vehicles fighting all the time. I feel like they strategically placed those moments in the game that made it feel even better when we got them. I like that we got more characters. It's a television show. Again, you have to be able to take that game and turn it into something that was worth watching. And I feel like that they did that. And this person, I don't know what you wanted, but it would have been just surface and it probably would have sucked. I think you were wrong. I think they had a lot of characters, a lot of references, a lot of great things in this game or this show that really reference the game. So I don't know if you went into it. I don't know what you wanted, and I'm sorry it wasn't for this, but I really, really hope it does not get canceled. And I hope that there are less reviews like this and more reviews like the previous ones to continually keep this going so that we can get a season 2. Second worst review is horrible, just horrible. It says, I'm honestly not sure how anyone found this show entertaining. I played this game series all of my childhood, and this show ruined it all for me. The actors are a big mess. No one is authentic, and it all seems like a joke, a bad one. A lot of the reviews on here say, what do you expect? How about character development, storylines, engaging entertainment? This feels cheap and almost insulting, like we'll just throw some somewhat high level actors into the mix and people will love it. You had an opportunity to make this dark thriller and slowly introduce us to each character we loved to play or destroy back in the day. Instead, it's a heaping pile of garbage. Again, we have another long term fan of the game completely bashing this show. And I don't, again, agree because I really think there was character development and a storylines, engagement, and entertaining. Like, I don't know how you can say, like, you don't have to like the show, but it's hard to argue that there was no character development or going over this entire. The character of Quiet, especially, had character development in the 10 episodes of this series so far. So I really highly disagree with that. I don't think that it was meant to. I don't know why people like. There is very much dark aspects to the game. Go back and play, especially if you're just not playing in a while, because I just played Twisted Metal Black and I just played Twisted Metal 2 again, like I said in the beginning of the episode. And that there, yes, it's dark and not thriller like though. It is very like dark comedy, weird kind of stuff that's going on in Twisted Metal that this show has hit. It has the comedy. Sweet Tooth alone could not have been better portrayed at all or better written. He is exactly what I would imagine Sweet Tooth to be. Moving on to the final worst review for Twisted Metal, titled Horrible with 4 exclamation points. Everyone's just saying horrible. They don't know what else to call it, I guess. The review is, this is one of the worst shows ever made. Death Race was a much better version of Twisted Metal than this garbage. It's difficult to understand what would make an actor want to be on this show. I get a poor struggling actor will take anything that will put food on the table, but one actress won many awards for her work on Encanto, and the other was a reoccurring actor in the Avengers movies. They aren't desperate for a paycheck. This show is one of the stupidest, poorly scripted, poorly acted shows that I've ever seen. I can't believe how horrible it is. They should force people in prison to watch this show. What an insult to the video game. Nev Campbell and Lloyd are both bad in it too. Y'all already know why I picked this motherfucking review. You already know. First of all, fuck Death Race. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't watch Death Race. I'm not gonna judge it. I just whatever. It is so. This is the shit that gets to me. This is the shit that gets to me. This is person's quote. I get a poor struggling actor will take anything to put food on the table. But these people in here are not struggling for a paycheck. You don't know a goddamn thing about these people at all. You don't know why they took the job. Maybe they're fans. And first of all, it was a greatly written show. But like, even if it was a piece of shit and they picked it, you don't know just because they're an Avengers movie. Look at what's going on with the strikes right now, people. You assume that everyone gets paid all this shit, and you don't know anyone's finances, and you don't need to know. It's not your fucking business. Nobody's checking on you on why you make the decisions that you made. That is a terrible thing. Like, you don't want to like it, that's fine, but don't start bashing people and then making assumptions on how much money people are making. It's really, really not a good look, sweetie. And then here we go. It's always the bad reviews. Here we go. But they should force people in prison to watch this show. what the fuck is that? Like it's this. Oh my god, such a punishment. People in prison should watch this show. Oh my god, blah, 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 blah. Get the fuck out of here. That concludes the top 3 best and worst reviews on IMDb for the Twisted Metal television show. So let's get into my thoughts on the show. Now that we're done with the complete opposites of reviews for this. I mean, it was very like both were written from fans with very different sides. So as a fan of the games and now the show, here's what I liked most about the Twisted Metal show. I loved the Easter eggs from the game. I know they're there for the fans, and I appreciate when people that are creating these shows and movies put things that the fans want. You are allowed to have your creative freedoms and create a show or a movie that you are passionate about, but when it is a near and dear existing franchise, whether that's a game or a series or a movie that has been like held on for generations or whatever the case may be, doing what the fans are like will make them happy is so underrated. It is so appreciated, and that's what I liked the most about this. There was so much there for the fans. What I liked the least about the show is that we didn't get to actually see Calypso. I have this image of Calypso from Twisted Metal 2's long face, skinny guy with long, straggly black hair. And while he is in an episode of the show, he's actually not seen in the show. His voice is pretty cool, though. Very, made me think very Calypso. And if we get a season 2, I get that they're lining up that character with trying not to spoil anything. So I get why they didn't, but that's what I liked the least about it. So, before we go any further, it's time to answer this week's terrifying trivia question. Again, the question was, what is the name of the asylum that Sweet Tooth was in the show? And the answer is Blackfield Asylum. And here's a little fun fact. That is the main setting that the characters escape from in the Twisted Metal Black video game. In the beginning of every single campaign or whatever you want to call it that you're playing in Twisted Metal Black, whenever you pick a character, they always start with going into Blackfield, going into their asylum, and giving a little backstory on that character. And I think it's pretty cool. And then at the end of the little clip, they're seen leaving to go join the tournament from Blackfield Asylum. So that was really cool. And I thought there was a lot of Twisted Metal Black in this show that I've noticed. And I thought that was fucking awesome. So, how many kills were in Twisted Metal? I could not find that information, but I can trust me and tell you that there are plenty of kills in Twisted Metal. And they're fucking awesome. Maybe we can revisit this later on when there's more time. I personally does not go back and watch all 10 episodes. I don't have that kind of time, working 2 jobs and everything else going on in my life to count how many people were killed in the show, but there were a lot. We're just going to leave it at that. All right, guys, here we go. It is time for my final rating and review of the 2023 television show, Twisted Metal. I decided to rate this show using none other than missiles. What the fuck else would you use? It's a Twisted Metal game, and that's part of the fun of the show and the game. I give the Twisted Metal 2023 show, season 1 so far, a 10 out of 10 missiles. So fucking good. So not what I was expecting. I had such low expectations for this. Such low expectations. Blew my mind away. 10 out of 10. And here is my final review. Honestly, when I first heard of this becoming a show, I was both excited and scared. The teaser trailer made me swing more in the direction of it being a terrible show, but I was wrong. This show is an example of how to do a video game adaptation. It ranks with The Last of Us and my favorite video game adaptations. Twisted Metal has elements for longtime fans of the game, but for those who never played, this is still just as enjoyable for fans of post-apocalyptic shows. Our characters bring depth to the surface level aspects we see in the games, and without spoilers, the finale of the show is more than you could hope for. Twisted Metal is streaming now on Peacock. Thank you so much for joining me on another Spooky Sunday episode of The Horror Within Me. I appreciate you all. I love that you guys love this show and that you're continuing to join me each week. And thank you to the new listeners. I love to meet you guys on social media and hear all this stuff and how much engagement we're starting to build. It is a dream come true for this little fan over here. So thank you. Thanks again for joining me on another episode of The Horror Within Me. Please rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening in from, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to get notified when new episodes drop. I'm also on all major social channels, so be sure to check out my website, www.thehorrorwithinme.com, for all those links. And until next time, my friends, stay spooky.